Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on the hardest quests in Fallout Explained. First up is Riley's Rangers. Riley's Rangers. This Fallout 3 side quest tasks you with rescuing stranded mercenaries from the Statesman Hotel rooftop in Vernon Square, which would be straightforward if the entire area wasn't infested with super mutants. To reach the Rangers, you must navigate through Our Lady of Hope Hospital, a multi-level nightmare populated by super mutant brutes and masters. The hospital features landmines at the entrance, because apparently super mutants understand perimeter defense better than you understand checking your feet. Once inside, you'll fight through several floors of cramped corridors where these bullet sponges have every tactical advantage. The quest requires you to locate a fission battery from a destroyed Protectron, repair an elevator, and escort the Rangers to safety. However, players consistently report dying multiple times because the game spawns 17 super mutants in a hallway designed for 3. You'll also discover that the Rangers can randomly turn hostile if you're wearing Enclave Hellfire or Tesla armor, even though you're literally there to save them. Extraordinary design choice, but the bugs make this truly special. Dogmeat can spontaneously die when you speak to the Rangers for reasons never explained. If you revive Riley yourself instead of convincing Dr. Barrows, she may stand permanently slumped forever. Sometimes the Rangers become hostile the moment you contact them, forcing you to reload and pray. And if Brick dies during the escape, which happens frequently with super mutant overlords, the entire group may blame you and open fire. You came to rescue them. They watched their friend die to a mutant, and somehow this is your fault. The audio system malfunctions during this quest, causing Ranger dialogue to play at triple speed with no voice acting, forcing you to frantically read disappearing text boxes. This makes understanding how to proceed rather difficult, though I'm sure you'll manage through trial and error, or by dying. Mostly dying. The reward is a choice between Ranger, Battle Armor, or Eugene, a unique minigun. The armor provides bonuses to luck, action points, and small guns, making it solid non-power armor equipment. Eugene deals respectable damage if you're into heavy weapons. You can only choose one, which means you'll spend the next 4 hours wondering if you made the wrong choice. This is assuming you complete the quest at all and don't abandon it after the 6th time. Brick decides to charge directly into a super mutant overlord's minigun fire while you're trying to keep everyone alive. Riley's Rangers represents everything frustrating about Fallout 3's combat design. Excessive enemy spam, cramped spaces, unpredictable NPC behavior, and enough bugs to populate another vault. But at least the rewards are worth it, assuming you have the patience and ammunition reserves to reach the end. Next up is Come Fly With Me. Come Fly With Me. This Fallout New Vegas quest was the first major questline Obsidian designed for the game, and according to lead designer Joshua Sawyer, their inexperience with the engine absolutely shows. The quest sends you to the REPCONN test site to deal with a ghoul infestation, which sounds simple until you realize the facility is a labyrinthine nightmare where you'll wander through identical corridors, wondering where you're supposed to go. The building layout is so confusing that players get lost even with quest markers, because apparently architectural coherence wasn't a priority during pre-war construction. Your objective is helping Jason Bright's ghoul followers launch rockets to the far beyond, which requires clearing the basement of Nightkin. This means navigating tight corridors with invisible super mutants who ambush you repeatedly. The Nightkin are led by Davison, a schizophrenic mutant who talks to his Brahmin skull named Antler and wants you to find stealth boys. You can either kill all the Nightkin or complete fetch quests for both Davison and a ghoul named Harland, who's barricaded himself in a room absolutely covered with bear traps, shotgun traps, frag mines, and tripwires. Harland's defensive setup is so excessive that even carefully sneaking through requires an explosive skill of 28 or higher to disarm concealed mines, and missing even one sends you flying. The quest structure is tedious busywork. Go upstairs, talk to Jason. Go downstairs, talk to Davison, find Harland, go to the jail, kill the jailer, return to Harland, access a terminal upstairs, return to Davison, go back to Jason, travel to 2 different locations across the Mojave for rocket components, return to REPCONN, launch rockets. Sawyer himself admitted there's a ton of back and forth that can get frustrating, which is developer speak for this quest is painful. Now here's where it gets entertaining. Davison can randomly turn hostile for reasons the game refuses to explain. Sometimes killing the jailer triggers it. Sometimes killing any Nightkin does it. Sometimes he just decides you're an enemy because the pathfinding broke. Different players report completely different results, which suggests the code is held together with duct tape and prayers. If Harland becomes hostile but survives, he'll appear in the launch pad, still hostile. When you approach the observation window, he attacks, causing all ghouls, including Chris Haversam, to flee permanently, breaking the quest. Additional bugs include Chris refusing to accept sugar bombs if you sabotage the launch, and pathfinding breaking when turning in components, freezing NPCs forever. The community consensus is unanimous. This is among the least enjoyable quests in New Vegas. Players actively seek ways to skip it by killing Manny Vargas, hacking his terminal, or heading straight to Boulder City. Some use console commands to force completion, because enduring another minute constitutes psychological torture. Sawyer acknowledged the criticism directly, admitting he wouldn't call it a top quest, and that the structure is genuinely frustrating. When the lead designer admits your quest isn't great, you've achieved something remarkable. The ending where rockets launch to Ride of the Valkyries is excellent. Unfortunately, you must endure an hour of corridor navigation and fetch quests to reach it. Most players take the 800 XP and immediately attempt to forget the experience. Next up is the Great Wanamingo Mine. Great Wanamingo Mine. In Fallout 2's town of Redding, Mayor Escorti offers you what he bills as a solid investment. Purchase the deed to the Great Wanamingo Mine for $1,000, and he'll buy it back for $2,500 once you've made it profitable. Sounds like easy money. What the mayor conveniently forgets to mention is that the mine is completely infested with Wanamingos, alien-like creatures that will absolutely destroy unprepared players. This is one of Fallout 2's most infamous scams perpetrated by an NPC rather than another player. Wanamingos are extremely tough enemies for early to mid-game characters. They have high health pools, significant armor, and deal devastating damage with tentacle attacks. The recommended level is 10 to 11 minimum, though many players attempt it earlier because they don't realize what they've gotten into until they're being eviscerated by alien tentacles in dark mine shafts. To complete the quest and cash in, you must eradicate every single Wanamingo in the entire zone. Not most of them, every single one. This isn't a quest testing tactical brilliance or problem solving. This is a war of attrition testing whether you have enough ammunition, stimpaks, and patience to systematically hunt down dozens of bullet sponge aliens across multiple mine levels. You must explore every nook and cranny because missing even one Wanamingo means Escorti won't buy the deed back. The mine layout is deliberately confusing with multiple entrances, including one through a well, and the game expects you to clear every tunnel and cavern. The combat is tedious. Wanamingos are fast, hit hard, and take considerable punishment. If you're using the 10mm pistol you likely have at this point, you'll dump entire magazines into single enemies while they close distance and shred your health. Companions help, but they tend to get themselves killed, leaving you alone with aliens. Many players abandon the quest entirely because the reward isn't worth the resource expenditure and frustration. What makes this particularly aggravating is that it's completely optional and exists solely to punish players who trusted an NPC's sales pitch. Escorti knew exactly what he was selling. He knew the mine was infested. He knew most people couldn't clear it, and he still charged $1,000 for the privilege of attempting it. The fact that you can technically profit $1,500 doesn't change the reality that you've been conned into extremely dangerous work for modest compensation. The Great Wanamingo Mine represents everything brutal about Fallout 2's difficulty curve. It's not mechanically complex or cleverly designed. It's just hard, and it expects you to bash your head against alien tentacles until either they're dead or you give up. Many players choose the latter, cutting their losses and moving on with characters who are $1,000 poorer, but significantly wiser about trusting wasteland mayors. Next up is Hole in the Wall. Hole in the Wall. This Fallout 4 quest in Vault 81 tasks you with rescuing Austin Engel, a child trapped in the Vault's secret research area with giant mole rats. Simple rescue mission, except these aren't normal mole rats. These are specially engineered plague carriers that inflict mole rat disease, a permanent condition reducing your maximum HP by 10 points. And here's the entertaining part. There's only one cure in the entire game, forcing you to choose between curing yourself or giving it to the dying child. This moral dilemma would be compelling if the quest wasn't designed to infect you through sheer incompetence. The disease spreads when mole rats bite you, which sounds avoidable until you realize the secret area is crawling with them in tight corridors. Even if you're extremely careful, use stealth and long-range weapons, and never get directly hit, you can still contract the disease because your companions can get bitten and somehow transmit it to you. The game never explains this mechanic. You'll finish thinking you dodged every attack, return to the surface, and discover you're infected because apparently Dogmeat's fleas are contagious. The moral choice at the end is supposed to be meaningful. Austin is dying and needs the cure immediately. You're infected, but not in immediate danger. Do you sacrifice permanent HP for a child's life, or cure yourself and let him die? This would be genuinely difficult if the disease wasn't so easy to contract through circumstances beyond your control. Many players report getting infected despite never being hit, which transforms the moral dilemma into do I accept permanent character gimping because the game's hit detection is garbage. The community widely considers this quest poorly designed. The permanent consequence would be acceptable if the game gave reliable ways to avoid infection, but it doesn't. You can do everything right and still get punished because a companion you can't control walked too close to a mole rat. On survival difficulty, where diseases are already constant annoyances, losing 10 max HP permanently is a significant penalty for helping a Vault community. The quest stretches on longer than necessary with tedious exploration through research labs and residential spaces, while constantly fighting mole rats that can end your healthy playthrough with one bite. The tension isn't enjoyable. It's anxious and frustrating, especially when you realize one mistake, one moment of bad luck, one poorly timed companion charge means spending the rest of the game 10 HP down. If you give the cure to Austin, Vault residents are grateful and you gain Curie's companion perk. If you cure yourself, Austin dies and everyone judges you. Neither outcome feels satisfying because the entire situation is manufactured through bad design. You're not making a meaningful moral choice. You're deciding whether to accept permanent mechanical punishment for participating in the quest at all. Hole in the Wall represents frustration disguised as difficulty. It's not hard because of challenging combat or complex puzzles. It's hard because the game arbitrarily infects you and expects you to make a meaningful choice about who gets the only cure. Most players just reload a save before starting and decide Austin can handle his own problems. Next up is Best Left Forgotten. Best Left Forgotten. This Far Harbor DLC quest tasks you with retrieving Dima's lost memories by entering his mind and completing puzzles using Fallout 4's already buggy settlement building mechanics. Forbes described it as downright bizarre and grinds the momentum of the entire DLC to a halt, which is remarkably polite considering what you're about to experience. There are 5 puzzle stages, each requiring you to build pathways for data streams using the same clunky interface you use to place walls in settlements. Except now, it's a precision puzzle, where one misplaced piece means starting over. The game provides essentially no tutorial or explanation. You're dropped into a digital environment with building materials and expected to figure out that you need to create paths from point A to point B using specific components at specific angles. The first puzzle is simple enough to stumble through. By the third puzzle, you're manipulating beam redirectors and multiple pathways simultaneously while the building system fights you at every step. The controls are imprecise, pieces snap to incorrect locations, and the camera angle makes seeing what you're doing in 3-dimensional space nearly impossible. Between puzzles, you must battle through dozens of rogue synths invading Dima's mindscape. These combat sections would provide welcome breaks if they weren't so tedious. The synths are bullet sponges spawning in waves, forcing you to clear entire areas before returning to puzzle solving. It's padding disguised as gameplay, stretching what should be a 20-minute quest into an hour-long ordeal. The building mechanics are already problematic in settlement mode, but puzzles amplify every issue. Pieces refuse to connect properly. The game declares placement invalid for unexplained reasons. You'll construct what appears to be a correct solution only to discover one piece is slightly misaligned and the entire thing needs rebuilding. And because this is Fallout 4, the puzzle might simply bug out entirely, forcing you to reload and attempt it again. The community universally despises this quest. It's widely considered the worst quest in Fallout 4 and possibly the entire franchise. Players who enjoy settlement building hate it because puzzles remove all creativity. Players who avoid settlement building hate it because they're forced to engage with mechanics they deliberately ignored. Everyone hates it because it completely interrupts the DLC's narrative to make you play a worse version of Portal for an hour. The quest is most appropriately named because everyone who completes it immediately tries to forget the experience. You're literally retrieving memories that were best left forgotten, creating new memories you desperately wish you could delete. The puzzles aren't intellectually challenging once you understand mechanics. They're just tedious, requiring you to fight the building system more than any actual puzzle logic. Dima's memories reveal important information about Far Harbor's factions, which means you can't skip this without missing significant plot points. You're held hostage by narrative, forced to complete these awful puzzles or abandon the DLC entirely. Some players choose the latter. They experience the first puzzle, realize 4 more await, and decide whatever Dima is hiding isn't worth enduring. Fallout 4's settlement system transformed into mandatory puzzle content. When defenders describe it as not that bad once you know what to do, you've created something special. The bar is so low that not completely awful if you use a guide counts as praise. Best Left Forgotten represents everything wrong with forcing players to engage with optional systems through mandatory content. Next up is Cappy in a Haystack. Cappy in a Haystack. This Nuka World DLC quest requires you to find 10 tiny Cappy code symbols hidden throughout the massive theme park, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. Sierra Petrovita, the Nuka-Cola-obsessed character from Fallout 3, returns to send you on a scavenger hunt for small drawings on walls and floors across one of the largest DLC areas in Fallout 4. The codes are deliberately obscure, placed in locations you'd never notice unless specifically searching, and the game provides absolutely no quest markers. You're expected to visually scan every surface in a sprawling theme park filled with high-level raiders who would very much like to kill you. The 10 Cappy symbols are scattered across multiple zones: the Galactic Zone, Dry Rock Gulch, Safari Adventure, Kitty Kingdom, and the Bottling Plant. Each zone is massive and designed for exploration at your own pace. Now you must comb through every area, looking for drawings roughly the size of your fist on walls, floors, behind objects, and in shadowy corners. It's a needle in a haystack made literal, except the haystack is an apocalyptic theme park, and the needle is a cartoon bottle cap you'll walk past 17 times without noticing. The quest becomes easier if you just look up all 10 locations online before starting, which is exactly what most players do. This transforms the quest from impossible scavenger hunt into tedious checklist completion, which isn't much improvement, but at least you're not wandering aimlessly for hours. Even with a guide providing exact locations and screenshots, the quest still takes considerable time because Nuka World is enormous, and you must travel between distant zones while dealing with raiders, feral ghouls, and hostile creatures. What makes this particularly frustrating is that codes aren't just hidden in out-of-the-way locations. Some are placed in high-traffic areas where you'd never think to look because they blend into the environment perfectly. You'll find one on a wall near a major landmark and wonder how many others you've walked past during normal exploration. The answer is probably all of them because these drawings are small, easy to miss, and designed to be as inconspicuous as possible in already visually busy environments. The reward is access to Cappy's hidden shelter beneath the park, which contains unique items and Sierra Petrovita as a potential settler. The loot is decent, and the shelter itself is interesting with a backstory about John Caleb Bradburton, Nuka-Cola's founder. None of this changes the fact that you spent an hour or more searching for tiny drawings in a raider-infested theme park, questioning your life choices with each zone you clear. This quest tests patience rather than skill. There's no combat challenge, no puzzle to solve, no meaningful decision. You're just searching, looking at walls, checking floors, squinting at textures. It's Where's Waldo, but the book is 50 pages long. Waldo is the size of a thumbtack, and there are raiders shooting at you. The quest is technically complete without a guide if you have the attention span of a forensics investigator and approximately 6 hours to systematically scan every surface in Nuka World. Many players start this quest thinking it'll be a fun treasure hunt and abandon it after finding 3 codes because they realize they have 7 more to locate, and their soul can only take so much pixel hunting. Those who complete it either use a guide from the start or have obsessive completionist mindsets that view tedious busywork as personal challenges. Cappy in a Haystack earns its reputation as one of the most time-consuming and patience-testing quests in Fallout 4. Next up is Dead Money. Dead Money. This Fallout New Vegas DLC is recommended for minimum level 20, though many players report even level 35 feels insufficient. You're stripped of all gear at the start and transported to the Sierra Madre Casino, a pre-war resort that's become a survival horror nightmare. The DLC's theme is Let Go, which is fitting because you'll need to abandon every gameplay habit developed throughout New Vegas. Dead Money forces you to play an entirely different game, and the community splits into 2 camps, those who love its atmosphere and challenge, and those who consider it psychological torture disguised as DLC. The cloud is toxic gas that permeates the Sierra Madre and kills you in seconds, not gradually. You walk into the cloud, your health vanishes, you're dead. This makes navigation extremely tense as you constantly watch for red mist while everything else tries to murder you. But the cloud isn't even the worst environmental hazard. That belongs to radios and speakers scattered throughout, which cause your explosive collar to beep increasingly rapidly until it detonates, killing you instantly. You'll learn to recognize that beeping in your nightmares. The collar mechanic is pure stress. You must locate and destroy every speaker or radio before your head explodes, which would be manageable if the DLC didn't deliberately hide them in locations you won't notice until beeping starts. You'll be mid-combat when the collar activates, forcing you to abandon the fight and sprint around looking for the source while your health ticks down and enemies pursue. It's survival horror, where the environment is more dangerous than enemies, and the enemies are already extremely dangerous. Ghost people are deliberately designed to be annoying. Their bullet sponges taking tremendous punishment, move erratically, making them difficult to hit, and resurrect unless you dismember them or use specific weapons. You'll empty entire magazines into a single ghost person, watch it collapse, turn to deal with another enemy, and hear it getting back up. The game forces you to either waste additional ammunition, ensuring they stay down, or use melee weapons to dismember them, neither appealing when you're resource starved. The DLC features invincible hologram enemies that kill you in 1 or 2 hits. You cannot fight them. You can only avoid them or disable them by destroying emitters, which requires finding the correct terminal while the invincible security guard chases you through narrow corridors. It's stealth gameplay in an engine not designed for stealth, with instant death as the penalty for failure. You must scavenge everything because you start with nothing. The Sierra Madre contains resources, but never enough. You're constantly low on ammunition, stim packs, and weapon repair kits. Every combat encounter is resource management. Do you fight and expend precious ammunition, or sneak past and risk the collar detecting a hidden radio? There are no good options, only less bad ones. The casino is claustrophobic and maze-like with identical corridors that loop back. You'll get lost constantly while the cloud seeps in and your collar beeps ominously. The DLC expects you to memorize layouts, learn enemy patterns, and approach every situation with caution, because running in guns blazing gets you killed immediately. This is the opposite of how you've played the previous 60 hours of New Vegas, and the adjustment is brutal. Players report dying 14 times or more just attempting completion, often on the same section repeatedly because difficulty spikes are severe. On hardcore mode, where you must eat, drink, and sleep while managing ammunition weight. Dead Money becomes exponentially worse because you're juggling survival needs on top of everything else trying to kill you. The community has no middle ground. You either love it for the oppressive atmosphere and how it forces genuine struggle, or you hate it for being punishing to the point of unfun. Some consider it the franchise's hardest content. Others consider it poorly designed for difficulty's sake. Both groups agree it's memorably brutal, though whether that's a compliment depends on your tolerance for resource scarcity, instant death mechanics, and enemies that refuse to stay dead. The Let Go theme is hammered home mechanically. You must let go of your gear, your comfort zone, and expectations of what Fallout should feel like. And after all that suffering, you reach the vault containing more gold bars than you can carry, forcing you to let go of wealth itself to escape. It's thematically coherent and divisive as hell. Next up is Open Season. Open Season. This Nuka World DLC quest is widely considered the hardest side quest in Fallout 4 by far, with GameRant declaring it potentially the hardest side quest in the history of Fallout. The objective is deceptively simple: kill every single raider in Nuka World. All of them. Over 80 high-level, heavily armed enemies spread across the entire theme park, including 3 gang leaders and their elite guards. This isn't a quest you stumble into unprepared. This is endgame content testing, whether you've mastered resource management and tactical positioning. The quest typically begins when Preston Garvey asks you to liberate Nuka World for the Minutemen, though you can also trigger it by attacking raiders directly. Once you kill the leader of any gang, the Disciples, Operators, or Pack, every member of that gang across the entire park immediately turns hostile. Kill the second leader, and 2 gangs are hunting you. Kill the third, and you're fighting the entire raider population simultaneously while they coordinate attacks across multiple zones. The park transforms into a war zone where you're outnumbered roughly 80-1. The 3 gang leaders are mini-bosses who are rarely alone. Nisha of the Disciples, Mags Black of the Operators, and Mason of the Pack each surround themselves with their strongest fighters. You can't simply snipe the leader from a distance and run. You must fight through their guards, kill the leader in what's often a cramped indoor space filled with enemies, and then deal with the fact that you've just made an entire faction your enemy. Strategy guides literally recommend bringing mini-nukes to these fights because the quarters are so tight and the enemies so numerous that explosive overkill becomes the rational, tactical choice. Nuka World is already one of the most dangerous areas in Fallout 4, even when the raiders are neutral. The park is massive, filled with high-level enemies, and designed as endgame DLC content. Now imagine navigating that same space while 3 raider gangs actively hunt you. You'll be fighting constantly. There's no safe zone to rest. You can fast travel out to resupply, but returning means immediately re-engaging with whatever raiders have respawned or repositioned. Every building could contain an ambush. Every corner could have 3 raiders with automatic weapons waiting. The resource drain is tremendous. You'll burn through ammunition at an alarming rate, because these aren't low-level raiders with pipe pistols. These are endgame enemies with combat armor, powerful weapons, and health pools that require sustained fire to deplete. Stimpaks become your primary currency as you tank damage you can't avoid in tight spaces. Some encounters you can approach tactically, using cover and long sight lines. Others, you'll just have to face tank while unloading everything you have, healing constantly, and hoping your DPS exceeds theirs. Many players save this quest for maximum level with fully upgraded gear, because attempting it earlier is suicide. Even at level 50+ with legendary weapons and power armor, Open Season is brutally difficult. The sheer number of enemies means you're constantly outnumbered and frequently surrounded. You'll develop intimate knowledge of Nuka World's layout because you'll be using every tactical advantage the environment offers: choke points, elevated positions, areas where you can force enemies to approach single file. The quest exists as the moral alternative to Nuka World's main raider storyline. If you want to be a good character aligned with the Minutemen, you must complete Open Season, which means the game literally locks good aligned players into the hardest quest in the DLC. Evil characters get to enjoy the raider content and avoid this nightmare. Good characters get to experience hell. Preston Garvey approves, for whatever that's worth. The reward for completing Open Season is liberating Nuka World for settlements and Preston's approval. That's it. No unique legendary weapons, no special armor, just the satisfaction of knowing you killed 80+ raiders and survived. Some players consider this insufficient compensation for what is objectively the most sustained combat challenge in Fallout 4. Others argue the challenge itself is the reward. Open Season represents Fallout 4 at its most brutal. It's pure combat endurance testing whether you've mastered the game's mechanics, optimized your build, and stockpiled enough supplies to wage a one-person war against an army. Many players attempt it, die repeatedly, and decide the raiders can keep Nuka World. Those who complete it earn legitimate bragging rights. In conclusion, Fallout quests range from frustratingly buggy to legitimately challenging, and you should absolutely play them. Peace on planet Earth.